Hello, and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton King. Today we are reviewing
Black Sabbath. By Black Sabbath.
There we go. I don't know whether people would have expected us to do Sabbath or not. What do you think?
Well, we've done Zeppelin, yeah. So we're not.
Yeah,
we're not completely proggy. I think people would be a bit surprised that we're doing Black Sabbath.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I do think those that watch and wouldn't expect us to do Sabbath, you should probably investigate because it might be better than you expect. Maybe the later stuff rather than this earlier stuff, maybe. But it is recommended. So yeah, Black Sabbath. I'm not going to tell you the entire history of the band, obviously, because we don't want these awful 25-minute videos. But what's interesting is that everyone knows they all came from Aston, so they all came from the same place, and Ozzy went to the same school as Tony Iommi and all that stuff. Tony Iommi and Bill Ward were in a band called Mythology in Carlisle, strangely, which was a pro band, and in that band they were developing a style, a heavy blues, heavy rock style. Before they'd even really sort of met Ozzy and Geezer, which is interesting. So that there's a sound on these albums which was already developed before Ozzy and Geezer got involved, which is fascinating, I think. But that band was disbanded due to evil drugs and stuff. They were in the newspaper and stuff because they were caught by the police, and they kind of came back to Birmingham Tull between their legs, and then had to get together with these other people who they considered to be real noobs by their standards. They were pros, and Geezer and Ozzy were a strange couple of people, to say the least. But apparently the formation of the band though really started with Ozzy coming round to Geezer's house, and with the immortal line, "There's something at the door to see you," from Geezer's sister, and it was Ozzy, who was a skinhead, of course, with a big overall on, and he had a shoe, I think, was it a shoe? A shoe on a dog lead, I think something like that, something just completely off the wall like that. Sounds like they've made it up, but I think it's probably true. So they formed, and they did a couple of gigs, and they had another rhythm guitarist and a horn player as well, and apparently it was so bad that Tony Iommi sacked the horn player and the rhythm guitarist on the spot. He wasn't the leader of the band or anything, but he just sacked them because they just sucked. But obviously they were developing this style which came from what Tony and Bill were doing, and developed into what Geezer was doing, because Geezer was actually a rhythm guitarist who started playing bass. So he plays bass in a very different way, and they're sort of developing how to make things heavier and whatever. Ozzy, of course, was Ozzy. It's interesting though when you listen to those very early demos like Song for Jim and The Rebel. The Rebel is really quite boring. It just goes on and on and on, but you notice how it sounds like Ozzy, but the Ozzy we know, whatever he's got isn't there. It's got all his characteristics in there, but whatever he has isn't there yet, which is really interesting. So yeah, the big thing came, they had a support slot for Jethro Tull, and at that gig, Mick Abrahams left Jethro Tull, and obviously they saw Tony Iommi playing, so Ian Anderson obviously decided, well, he's good, let's have him. So obviously he went and auditioned. It's one of those terrifying audition stories where there was hundreds of guitarists, and but Tony Iommi got the job, and I'm not surprised he got the job, obviously, because I think Tony Iommi is actually underrated as a guitarist. He's not underrated as someone who writes riffs, obviously, but he's as a player, I think he's underrated. So I'm not surprised about that. But I do think that time at Jethro Tull was crucial in, I think, formulating something musical that may or may not be there before, but also I think the work ethic, in that they actually turned up at 9 o'clock in the morning and worked hard to make the music work, rather than just smoking some weed But Tony Iommi left Tull. The only thing he recorded was a mimed performance on Rolling Stones Circus thing video, and he left. He said, "No, I don't want to do this." It didn't feel right. Obviously he was very intimidated by going into meeting the Stones and John Lennon and Eric Clapton and all these people, and he'd sort of left everyone else in the lurch. So he must have seen potential in what they were doing. He must have believed in it, to go back to Birmingham to nothing. And they came from nothing. I mean, you think you're working class, that's not working class. They lived in crap. It was a miserable life. But obviously he brought that work ethic back with them, and then they had done a couple of recordings, and then one day they were asked, "Can you just go and do some recordings for us?" Of course, this was after they'd been to the Cavern Club and done the Beatles thing and learned to play. So it wasn't a big deal, this album. It was just like, "Well, can you just go and do some more recordings?" And oh, okay, we'll do some more recordings. They had no idea what would happen to it, and here it is. It's my favourite of the first four albums. I'm not gonna. I don't think it's the best album for the first four albums, but to me, it's special in the feel of it and everything, and the cover and just the whole vibe of it is fantastic. Before it comes homogenised in the style, which wasn't then homogenised, if you see what I mean. It isn't as influential, but it's very, very special to me.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Mm.
Recorded pretty much on the hoof. You know, they recorded it playing pretty much live, and it sounds fantastic.
Over 2 days.
Yeah, great songs, a lot of memorable songs on there, and yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's our location. You know, we're from the vicinity of Black Sabbath. I don't know if that makes it a little bit more special for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it probably does.
Yeah.
They're proper local heroes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tony Iommi's underrated, and I think that's a Brummy thing more than anything else. Brummy can't possibly be, you know,
good. Can't be that good.
Can't be that good. He's a flipping Brummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the formulation played a key part in it. I mean, Tony Iommi went to work in a factory for a while and realised,
This is crap.
I'm not doing this.
Yeah. But unfortunately went back the afternoon and famously drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to imagine how someone can play guitar.
With missing the ends of his 2 fingers.
The important ones.
But he played, someone, I think the manager of the workplace came out and played him Django Reinhardt. Actually got 2 fingers missing, I believe. He just played his 2 fingers. So he soldered on. So the jacket in there. That must be significant. And although it seems like, you know, to attribute that to the sound seems overly melodramatic. You know, it's literally the sound of the industrial Midlands. You know, but it is, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
And the anger, the pain he was feeling in his fingers. You know, really is, and that's why it's so. One of the reasons it's so fantastic.
Mm-hmm. It's hard, when you listen to them in interviews and so, it's hard to believe that they are the creators of this music.
Especially Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, how can you go away and do and make something so good and so well? It's practically archetypal. I mean,
well, yeah, and they you know they were the underdogs of the you know Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. They were always the underdogs until years later, and of course they're by far the most influential.
Yeah,
by far. And it's Deep Purple actually, ironically, because they were 73, 74. They were the biggest band who have fallen by the wayside in that sense.
Yeah.
They're not really that influential as these bands. Some people consider this prehistory, this album. I don't. I think there's just something so exciting about it. And I love the remasters when you can hear it more clearly, the clarity of it, and you can hear just some brummies in a room playing.
71, is it?
Hmm?
Is this 71?
No. February the 3rd, Friday the 13th, February 1970.
1970.
Yeah.
So what were people listening to then? Beach Boys?
Lots of people listening to King Crimson. This is almost exactly a year after that King Crimson album came out. It's not really mentioned, but yeah. There's a bit of an influence there. And they've said themselves they were listening to Led Zeppelin a lot, and that's obvious. You know, it wasn't like let's be heavier than Led Zeppelin. It was just let's be heavy.
I think they consider themselves a blues motivated band.
Yeah,
they were listening to a lot of blues, whereas it's very obvious in the Led Zeppelin music. In fact, they're playing quite a lot of blues tracks. Heavier. It's not so obvious with this, although obviously it's all rock music is sort of.
Well, Led Zeppelin 1 starts with Good Times, Bad Times. That's a pop song basically. Yeah. Shades of Deep Purple starts with And the Address, which is like a psychedelic jam. You know, this album starts with Black Sabbath. Oh yes, but it's a bit later.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's get on with the tracks then.
Yeah. So the first song, obviously, Black Sabbath, a seminal moment, written because they were trying to play Mars. Quite obviously, it is the tritone, and that's so profound and so heavy. The evil note that Bach wouldn't play because it was the devil's note. They didn't know it was the devil's note. It's just one of those things, and obviously, it's that song which started a lot of the occult associations, and then the record company ran with it and did the inverted cross in the record. And apparently there was even a Satanists fair thing in America, obviously in America, not here, welcoming Black Sabbath for their tour that was cancelled because everyone was sort of, no thank you. And obviously the band were absolutely horrified at that because this song isn't a Satanist song. Why would you think this song is a Satanist song? Geezer supposedly woke up in the night and saw a black figure at the bottom of his bed pointing at him. Oh my god! You listen to Geezer. Think about Geezer. You don't believe anything he's saying. He is a dodgy geezer. Apparently he's called Geezer because when he was a kid he called everyone Geezer when he was a little kid, and everyone started calling him Geezer. But he is dodgy Geezer. You don't believe what he's saying. It's just everything he says sounds dodgy, and he's like, is he making that up? But I mean, I've experienced things where you wake up and you think you can see something in the night. So but the difference is Geezer is a full-on Catholic, a proper Catholic, and is brought up in all this religious stuff, and was into the occult and stuff because he's a kid, and it was all part of that same thing, and he'd paint his room black and have pictures of the devil on the wall and all this, and of course that happened, and he painted it all yellow and took all the pictures away and never went there again. So this is a song warning against it. But what's brilliant is, of course, they're not Geezer's lyrics, they're Ozzy's lyrics. Yeah, but Ozzy can't write. He didn't write them down, he improvised them. Those lyrics came from the original improvisation, and Ozzy sung about Geezer's experience, which is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Geezer writes lyrics, but Ozzy did it.
Yeah.
And it is simplistic in a sense, but it is a fantastic bit of poetry, because just that spontaneity, obviously something magical happened at that point and got that fantastic piece of music, and obviously it goes fast as well, slowly on the album version, and later on they played it faster. But the hammer horror of it, people say, oh, it's a bit hammer horror, they hadn't quite got metal then. To me that is wonderful. That's got atmosphere in it that Slayer doesn't have.
It's evocative in the same manner that classical music is evocative.
Yeah.
And it is brilliantly so.
Yeah, in that sense, it in terms of vibe, more like prog.
Yeah.
Although it's very simple.
Although prog, I don't think would ever rely on the poetry that much. It's normally the arrangement and the actual notes that they're playing.
Yeah.
They used to try and get.
Yeah, and often the
atmosphere.
lyrics are dire.
Yeah.
So this is a different thing.
Yeah, but the lyrics are they're not sublime in the sense that they're profound or anything like that, but they are perfectly suited to the song.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. Next song.
The Wizard.
The Wizard. I love The Wizard. It's a more straightforward song in a way. There's something very ominous about it, and it is Ozzy playing the harmonica. Whether that's due to him not really knowing how to play the harmonica or something, but there's a real sinister overtone to it, which is I think is great. It's either about Gandalf, the Wizard, or it's about a dealer, and it's not clear whether they made up one to sort of hide the other, and it isn't clear. So did they say it was Gandalf to try and pretend they weren't singing about a dealer, or did they sing about a dealer to pretend they weren't singing about Gandalf? I'm not sure. I really like it. I really like this song. I like the more swingy moments of the very early Sabbath. I really, really like, and obviously it's something metal doesn't really normally do.
Yeah, it's very. I think with Sabbath they have very memorable intros, and the harmonica, although it's simple, maybe they're trying to get back to their blues roots with a bit of harp playing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get there, but it's very very memorable. It's a good song.
Yeah. Next song.
Behind the Wall of Sleep.
Yeah. Obviously, Geezer's trying to get a bit more weighty in his lyrics. What's really interesting, the American release of the album, they tried to break up the songs into different titles, apparently to give it more radio play, so people would play this section of a song, because the songs were generally 5 minutes, because metal songs generally are 5 minutes. So the little waltz section at the start, dun, 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 stuff, is called Wasp. But apparently they didn't write these titles themselves, it was the record company that added them, so they're kind of stupid titles, but there you go. Double track vocals. This is very early Ozzy, and you can tell how in the early Ozzy he was trying to sing lower, and he doesn't naturally sing lower, and because it's double tracked it's slightly off kilter, but it does give it a lot of character.
Track 4.
N.I.B. It stands for Nativity in Black, if you're dear. For everyone else, it's N.I.B. It's Bill Ward's beard, because Bill was always the butt of the jokes. You'd think, I mean, from Ozzy's revisionism, Ozzy would put out that he was always the butt of the jokes, but it isn't true. Bill was always the butt of the jokes. That's the one they set fire to. Or he got so drunk that they put him in a boat and pushed him out into the middle of the lake, and things like this. N.I.B. But the lyrics, and this is one of, I think there's 3 songs Geezer wrote, 3 set of lyrics that Geezer wrote, actually about the devil. Now, Black Sabbath mentions the devil, warning you against the devil. Lord of this World, we'll talk about later, obviously, in 2 weeks' time, is warning you against whatever it's warning you against. And N.I.B. is about the devil falling in love with a human being and becoming normal. It's a stupid, silly lyric, actually. This is all until Headless Cross, of course, which is all about the devil, but we won't go there. I think this is the most standard track on the album. So in a way, this is for the metal purist. This is where they've found it. So it is more normal in that sense. Some great guitar playing, and it's one of the classic points where Ozzy writes the melodies. He doesn't normally write lyrics. He writes melodies. So generally, he just follows the riff. You know. But yeah, it's brilliant. Isn't it?
Very memorable riff. What can you say?
Yeah, and it's a great example of the Iommi Butler thing of really having a lot of vibrato on the riff, but also it's all downstrokes. So he's not going. It's only downstrokes, so it makes it much heavier. And later on, he did this mute thing where he sort of did. So the later performances are fantastic. The one on Last Supper is great. Yeah.
The thing, one of the things I do like on this album is the bass playing, in the sense that the bass playing follows the guitar basically,
yeah,
and sort of like reinforces that, but it's still clear somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow you can pick out the bass guitar, although it's just mirroring what's happening on the guitar. You would expect it to be lost in the mush.
Yeah. Well, Geezer turning his bass up it became a thing later on, but I think that's no bad thing.
No, it's good. Good stuff.
Yeah. Track 5.
Evil Woman.
Rubbish. This is the cover version. Obviously, they were encouraged to try and do a single to break through, and it's by a band called Crow. It's pretty random. The American version didn't feature Evil Woman because obviously the company didn't want to put it on because it was a rubbish song, and they put on the B-side Wicked World, which we'll talk about in a bit. Yeah, but the band hated it apparently. Yeah. And it was a flop.
It is one of those songs where once you've heard it, it rings around in your head and you hate it as well.
Yeah. And it's as you were saying about the bass. The only good thing about it is the bass.
Yeah.
You know.
Next track, Sleeping Village.
Sleeping Village, yeah. Apparently, early on it was called Devil's Island. I think Sleeping Village alludes to a poet, 18th century poet, Goldsmith. I'm talking nonsense there, but I think it's inspired by some poetry called Something Else Village or something like that, I think. And you've got this wonderful stuff, and it really, you think, oh, this is going to be a big epic, you know. Apparently the bang bang is a Jew's harp, that's what it's called.
It's also called a mouth harp or a jaw harp.
Oh right, okay.
We've got one at home.
But then it sort of dissolves into a jam, so all that stuff, you know. Which is basically a cream-like blues jammy kind of stuff. So it doesn't quite have the weight of what you're expecting from that opening moment, but the atmosphere there that I love, you know, it's great. And then we get some guitar playing, and then the next song,
Warning.
Yeah, this is an Ainsley Dunbar track. The original's really good actually, so it's worth checking out the original. And they play it, and then there's some more guitar playing, and they play it again, and then the album ends. That's basically it. So you know, this is a special album for me. I think this is wonderful, but I do think the second side is flawed, Evil Woman, and guitar solo-y stuff going on because it's just their live set, you know, which is fair enough. But they didn't know it was going to be, you know, I think it was number 4 or something like that. It got top 10, so very successful very quickly, just from playing live. You know, obviously they wouldn't be playing on the radio or anything like that. What do you think of Warning?
Pretty forgettable actually.
Well, I like the song. I know all the guitar bits so well. I just listen to it and that's it. It's Black Sabbath.
I'm not sure Black Sabbath actually know how to finish an album.
That's interesting.
The last songs always feel a little bit... They're good songs, but it doesn't feel like the end of an album. It just stops.
Yeah. The last note is actually the same last note on the first side, which is the N.I.B. Because I was going to say Jimmy Bain then. It's not Jimmy Bain. The other guy, the producer, did a lot of editing to get this into an album because they just played their set. They didn't know how long an album was or anything like that. So apparently Sleeping Village was like 18 minutes and he just had to chop it up into bits and, you know, make it into an album that sounds like an album. So the last track on the album, it's not really the last track on the album, but it is now generally track 8, I think. I mean, on this deluxe edition, it's the first track on the second disc, is Wicked World, which was the B-side to Evil Woman, but was replaced Evil Woman on the American version. And I think is fantastic. It was written at the same time as Black Sabbath, so it is the same concept of you know, lyrical dark stuff and you know, the world is a wicked place. They can put a man on the moon quite easily, but people don't know that they're dying of our diseases. I love the first bit that that stuff because it swings. I love stuff that swings. There's very little rock music that swings. The middle section's a bit of a problem putting it on the album because obviously Sleeping Village has got the Tony Iommi stuff. And he does it in this as well. So I don't know where it fits on the album properly, but it's great. You can tell the sound quality is slightly different. So it must have been done at a different session.
Another really good track.
Yeah, what's really interesting, that was used as the big solo excursion track in their live sets, not Sleeping Village. It was used for years. Eventually, strangely, replaced by Sabracadabra, would you believe? How weird is that? Wonderful stuff.
Good work.
How many stars? Eggs?
Oh gosh. It's got to be a 6-egg album. It's archetypal, it's sort of...
Yeah, see, metal fans wouldn't say that. They would say this is kind of prehistory and they haven't got it quite right yet. But the atmosphere is so strong. I can't give it 6 eggs because of the flaws in the second side. It has to have 5 eggs for me, even though it's special to me.
Maybe I'm overcompensating then. Maybe I'm overcompensating because they're... But I think, okay, maybe I'm taking into consideration the fact that it was recorded live. It wasn't really constructed as an album, and yet it's come out and it is one of the best albums of all time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's special, and not necessarily recognised as such.
Can I stick with 6 eggs?
Do it.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Bow.
There we go.
Cool. Right, join us next week